Back here talking. So you need to turn it down a little bit, Scott. I'm going to stand back here and talk from here, I think. Okay. All right. We are going to call the meeting to order, and the first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. So will you join me? And all right, Chris, you want to lead it for us? Let's to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Chris. I should be better now. All right, we'll establish the quorum for the meeting. We have 8 directors here. Records show that John's not here. All right, and moving forward, couple things for you. First, on comments for the record from the president. I just wanted to say congratulations to the par 3 team, Lauren and Brian, for an excellent job on their par 3 tournament on Saturday. I believe they had over 100 people that were there, adults, teens, children, so everybody out there playing on the par 3. And that's exactly what we wanted to see whenever it was built. And so thank you very much to all of that group for getting it kicked off and getting us sort of kicked off for what will continue to go, hopefully, up on the par 3 and all of that Little Wolf Park. Also wanted to say thank you to Rich and Dan for leading our town hall meeting, those of you that came on Saturday. I appreciate, them pulling everything together and especially able to educate and answer questions of our members. One of the things that did come up, I believe, is still the fact that the POA and the SUD are the same. They are not. If you have a water issue with SUD, please call the SUD because the POA does not own or operate the water department. So just as a reminder, and you can remind your friends or to the new people that are coming in from a resident's perspective. I also wanted to say thank you to everybody that provided comments. There's always who knows what's going to come from people whenever we put things out there. And so there's always the opportunity for feedback from our members, and we really appreciate that. We take that seriously. We listen to it. We appreciate your comments, your encouragement, your concerns, your questions that you have along the way. And we do use that whenever we're looking at renewing our rules. We're looking at some of the different options and things that we need to consider for the POA. So thank you for your feedback, and we appreciate that. And you'll hear more of some of your feedback tonight. And lastly, if you're interested in serving on a committee for this next year, please see a board member or myself and let us know that. We would love to have you join us. So those are my comments from the president. I will remind you that we do have 2 opportunities for the members to share their comments with the board. The first one will be just after this at the beginning and then also at the end. And we ask you to give us your name, your lot number, and stick to about 2 minutes so that we can go through and continue to move through our meeting and our agenda that we have. So are there any member comments now for the board? Do you have some? Okay. Dina, you're first up there. Rich will get your microphone.
Dina Fag, lot 719. And I just kind of want to go on the same kind of train that you were on there, Nancy. And I wanted to acknowledge the staff for the wonderful East-West tournament that we just had. Not last weekend, but the weekend before. I might be mistaken, but I believe it was April 18th and 19th, 17th. So just for those of you who don't know, it is something that has been going on for years and years here. And this year we had 116 participants. That is 4 shy of a full field. It's one of the largest that we've had in years. And just the participation was great. This wasn't just MGA, WGA. This was all of our members, people who do not belong, people to those clubs, people who are not just participating in WGA and MGA. It was all across the field, all ages, and it was just handled so well. One of the things that has been added in the last few years by Lauren Weaver, our golf pro, is on the kickoff night, we have a team building competitions. And if you weren't there to see it, you might want to look at some video because it was incredible fun. It was team building, it was community building, there was laughter, there was joy. Just what it is that we try to build here in Lake Kiowa community. I want to also thank Jeremy and his staff. They did an amazing job over the weekend, giving us great food at the end of it. And Brian Brown and his crew did an amazing job. I just want you all to remember the things that you don't see that our golf team does, whether it's Lauren, whether it's Brian, whether it's our crew members. And I just want to give them a big yeehaw. The other thing I wanted to mention is I look forward to seeing what the recommendations were by our Ways and Means when we get to the agenda item about the new boat. I'm not quite sure, like, what is the history on the repairs? What are the hours on that engine? Um, I don't know how many hours it's really been in the water because since I've been here, I haven't seen it that many. So I'm not saying that it isn't something that couldn't be of value to our community, but I would like to see that position filled. I would like to see hours on the clock for that position before we go rewarding them with a brand new boat.
Any other member comments? Thanks, Dina. Any other member comments? Okay, we're going to move forward on our agenda. First item of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting. So I'll turn that over to you, Ronnie.
Thank you. They have been corrected. Make a motion that we approve them as they stand.
All right. I have, let's see, Ronnie's made a motion to approve the minutes of the March 23rd, 26th meeting, and Dylan seconded. In any other discussion? All right. Call for the question here. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. The motion passes. It's 8-0, Kendall. All right. Next item of business is our treasurer report, financial update.
Thank you, Nancy. Give Scott a second. All right, great. Thank you, Scott. We'll start going through this. The one thing that you'll see with, you won't see on this yet, since it's March data, is the effect in the new road reserve fund. You'll start seeing that next month as we go through the numbers. But today, the March numbers, we'll go through the detail. We're definitely up on revenue, $14,000, but we're also had more expense than we thought, around $33,000. So we netted, $19,000 less in income than we were anticipating. The good news is, month three, this is not, any way, shape, or form a problem because we're still $25,000 to the good through March. All right, on the revenue side, food and beverage, the revenue continues to be great. More tickets, bigger tickets. So that is a huge plus on the lodge side that Jeremy and team continues to provide for us. Building permits, there was a couple that were bigger, so that definitely helps. Again, month to month, building permits is tough to forecast, but it's always good when it's more than you think. And a few things that were a little bit lower, fewer guest fees than we thought, slightly lower ads for the communique and slightly fewer resale certificates. So if we go to the expense side, it's a little different. No worries. So, we're unfortunately a little bit understaffed in security. So we had a little less spending on security staff. Looking to communique, we were a little bit under on the communique printing. So that kind of pretty much offset the reduced cost. We know we have an issue with sanitation in that we now have to pay sales tax on that where we didn't pay for before. That's a non-budgeted item. So we're just going to see that for the rest of the year. Some maintenance on the pro shop, public works, is a little bit of everything, but a big piece of that was $7,000 that we needed to spend to fix the gate of again and again, and then the roll-up door on the POA shop. The big item as we go a little further down, is on admin. You see about 13,000. Some of that is just timing on salary and bonus, and a number of smaller items that added to get to that 13.6 in over expenses. On the reserve funds, not a ton of spending, a little bit in the ARF. You see that gone down $127,000. You can see what that was spent on. ARF, and we'll talk more about this next month, is in dramatically better shape than it would have been without the road reserve fund. We've presented here 3 or 4 times over the last 3 or 4 years, talking about how ARF is going to go bust and go bust relatively quickly. But thankfully, taking that $250,000 a year that we spend for roads out of ARF makes that fund actually get closer to being where it needs to be. Not exactly where it needs to be, but definitely closer. The other thing I wanted to focus on is golf reserve fund, $680,000. We know that there's some big ticket expenses coming up that are going to be probably a lot more than $680,000. So we got to continue to keep our eye on what's our strategy for that. Delinquencies are pretty good. Interest income is pretty good. Initiation fees a little bit less than we were forecasted, but that's January through March is not the big time for home sales. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Just got one roll forward. You can see 750-ish thousand, from checking and payroll, 5.2 million at, that all the different reserve funds and other dedicated funds like security deposits, Part 3 donations, etc. So it gets us about $6 million in total assets. So you can see, and I want to spend a second on this because sometimes I just roll past this, that you can see, exactly where the money is dedicated to. Last year, Crystal changed the accounting. So each of the reserve funds have their own accounts, their own line items. So you can see exactly what's out there. And you can see that, almost all of this money of that $5.5 million or $5.3 million is dedicated to one of the reserve funds. So it's not, or something that we can't spend like security deposits. So, to me, when people say, oh, we have $5 million, $6 million, why don't we spend it? Well, it's already allocated to all those different items. Only a very small amount of that money, like $100,000, is something that's discretionary. And that's for things like, having money in the POA to be able to pay bills. So this slide is again going over, where that money is invested. You can see, total 5 million plus. Strategy has changed a little bit as interest rates has changed. So you can see we're using more treasuries to try to get a little bit more interest income. Crystal, I think, is more comfortable with using the Fidelity account, buying treasuries, and using that strategy. So I think that's tremendous. Next slide. All right. Last month, for the folks that were here, I got accused of trying to do a semester's worth of Econ 101 in a 10-minute period. Maybe that worked, maybe it didn't. But the thing I ended on last time was inflation looked pretty good, but there was lots of storm clouds around what was going on in the world, in the Middle East, especially, that might drive change to inflation rate. So on this slide, it's really what was the inflation rate over the last 50 plus years. So the dark line is US overall. They didn't start calculating a DFW number until 89. So that's the gold line. So you can see kind of we mostly, track the US overall, except when COVID happened, we peaked at a much higher level. And then recently, last year, we're at a much lower level than the US overall. But now with gas prices, oil prices overall, we're back up to pretty much exactly where the US is. So, year over year through January, there was almost zero inflation in the DFW area, according to these stats. And now we're back up to 3%, given everything that's going on with $5 plus diesel and $3.75 plus gasoline, et cetera, et cetera. So what questions do you guys have about the Treasurer's report? Any questions, comments, feedback?
Cecil?
Yeah, I know I talked to you, Dan, and saw a response back from Crystal. I was looking at the budget report and saw that, for everyone, we're at 41% of our budgeted amount for water for the year already. Year or month 3, which is 20, should be about 25%. So we were trying to understand that, and it has to do with SUD pulling water and replacing it back into the lake, and just trying to get better with knowing and understanding possibly when that will happen, and that it will, it's not a trend that will just continue to keep going up.
Well, that brings up a really good point. I don't think a lot of people understand. I mean, any water we pull out of lake for irrigation has to be replaced, and it's replaced through the water SUD. And so they pump water back into the lake, and they do it on their schedule. And it's not necessarily that it happens. We pumped out 100 gallons, they put in 100 gallons the next day. It happens on their calendar. Or so when you see those big ticket items, it's they pumped a lot of water into the lake and then they charged us. So it doesn't happen in a flat rate every month.
107%.
107% of what's pumped
Yeah,
out.
it's 107.
So we have to put back more than we take out, and we have to pay for
107.
that.
It's just to know and better understand the timing so that we could budget for it so you don't catch a wide variance or people think that it's a problem.
No, that's a very good point.
Just a note, we try to do that on run rates and just historical, but we don't know when SUD's going to put it back. And a lot of it has to do with the demand on their system. Generally, they put more water back in winter and fall and not in spring and summer because irrigation systems and everything else are going. So you can think it almost opposite. When the golf course is actually using water, they're not putting any back. So it's kind of backwards.
Great. Any other questions, thoughts, feedback? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan. All right, moving on our agenda. The next item of business would be to consider committee changes. There are none for this month. They will be coming for next month. So still working on all the committees for this coming year. So I know we have one that's coming off of a committee, but they will be in the next one. All right, next item of business is Watercraft Lake Rural Ad Hoc Committee update. I think Carolyn Peters wanted to speak to that. Carolyn? Okay.
Good evening. At this time, the Ad Hoc Watercraft Committee has held 2 meetings during which we received input and feedback from all members on a range of key issues. We are continuing to compile and refine those discussions into structured recommendations. Our final meeting is scheduled for May 6th, where we allow for additional dialogue, present finalized recommendations, and conduct votes on any items requiring formal committee approval. I'm not sure how you want me to give you the final recommendations. Do you want an email to you directly, Nancy, or to the whole board?
Well, I think they need to go to the Rules Committee is what we discussed, would be the place that they would go. So they would go to George on in the Rules Committee. I wasn't aware that the May 6th meeting was the final meeting, though.
It is.
Okay. May the
6th.
6th. Okay. Is there some reason you're not going to continue forward if there's more to consider?
Because
More
we talked
discussion?
both meetings on the same items. And so we have our recommendations that we want to present to the board. There is an agreement on all of them. So we've decided we're going to vote on May 6th if we don't have agreement on said items. But I mean, it could go on if we need to, but I don't think we're going to need to after May 6th.
Okay. Well, so my understanding is that there's probably more discussion to be had. So that's the feedback that I've received. And I think a lot of board members have received some of that feedback also, that there's probably more discussion to be had in that committee. And so, the purpose of wasn't just to come up with some recommendations in just several of them or whatever, but the whole purpose was to make sure that we are looking at all of our rules going forward for the future of the committee too. I mean, excuse me.
Which I assure you we have. We have.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying that some of the feedback that I've received has not been that people felt like they could say everything they wanted to in that meeting. And so,
Well, I beg to differ.
okay.
I absolutely beg to differ.
And so I'm not going to debate it here. So that's one of the things I think that that's the reason I reached out to talk to you some more. And what we'll do is we will talk about that. And the next meeting is May the 6th. Is that correct?
And if we do vote, if we do have final recommendations, I'll email them to the Rules Committee then by May 13th.
That would be who they go to. That's
Okay.
correct. And so we also have before us on the board, there been a member of the committee that asked to disband the committee. And so that's something I don't know if the board would like to discuss at this point in time, or would you? Sure. Yes.
Carolyn, when you say there was an agreement in the committee, how do you define agreement?
What specifically? Agreement on some issues? Like,
So did you take a formal vote and 8-6?
no, but there were a couple issues everybody agreed on, some education, some things that we're going to do moving forward,
Right.
but we're going to vote on that on May 6th if need be.
Okay.
Right. Well, can I follow up? Sorry.
Sure.
So my suggestion recommendation is everything gets voted on,
Okay.
everything gets recorded. And that way there's no confusion down the road. There's no, hey, we did this by acclamation or anything like that. And people get confused. I have had similar feedback where people feel like there's certain parties that are railroading certain things and they're not comfortable with that process. So I think having everything public and declared would be helpful. I also believe, in addition to what Nancy said, the concept of this committee was to figure out what's the best common ground to bring the community together on watercraft rules. Again, I wasn't at the meetings but based on the emails and feedback I got, people were saying that they felt that one side was trying to win over another side and it was this kind of combat back and forth. And to me, that if someone's thinking in that committee that their side is going to win, then the committee has failed at their job. If the committee believes that they can come forth with a good group of recommendations that will bring Kiowa together, that the majority of the community can agree with, and then, you're never going to get, the majority, but at least, or the vast majority, but at least most people will say, yeah, I understand that. I might not agree with it, but I'm fine with it.
Okay, well, I would just like to say there's a lot of people on the committee that don't even live on the lake. Some people live on the lake. Some people agree with, please let me speak. Some people agree with something, well, you're just shaking your head. Some people agree with some things, some people don't agree with others. So I think it's actually the perfect committee for Lake Kiowa because not everybody agrees. And if I was doing my job terribly, we'd all agree. There's a lot of disagreement. And I think it's been handled very well. And I'm sorry that somebody might be complaining to you, but this is the job of the Watercraft Committee, is to bring the ideas and recommendations that the majority agree on. And that's what's going to happen.
Great. So what I would also say is if we're trying to bring the community together, that any recommendation would need to have 2/3 approval, because that way you would make sure that most of the committee agrees that this is something that would benefit the community. I would hate to have something come down if there's 14 people and one person on one side has a sick kid and needs to take him to the doctor and can't make the committee, and they vote 7-6 on one side or the other. I'd really want to make sure that the committee comes across with something that the community, that brings the community together, finds the right process rules that go forward. And I think it makes zero difference if you live on the lake, don't live in the lake, because with
I didn't say it did. I just said it's a great group that represents the entire community. That's
Understood.
all I was saying.
Understood. So I just don't feel comfortable with the process based on what I've heard. Again, I haven't seen it, but it's not one person. I've gotten feedback from multiple people. So, and to get to the point where someone's saying we should disband it because it's not working, I don't think that's right. But I do think there's an opportunity to do things in a more structured way, so that we can all feel comfortable with the recommendations that come out of it.
Okay, well, I just want to assure everybody that everybody that's wanted to speak at the meeting has had plenty of time to speak at the meeting. And everything's in writing, everything's in the minutes. We've been doing everything that we've been asked.
And so Carolyn, all that you're hearing
You're
Dan
too
say,
angry,
as
stop.
well as I would assume from the rest of the board, would be that follow parliamentary procedures, make sure that we vote, make sure that we have I do think a 2/3 or a supermajority on those recommendations is important, because it is a group of varied individuals. That's the reason that the committee is structured the way that it is. So those are the things that I believe, unless anybody else on the board disagrees with me, the 2/3 majority, super majority, whatever you want to call it, would probably be the way to go on votes that you take.
That's your
in there.
recommendation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It would be.
Okay.
It's in your packet.
I think I was at the last meeting and she stopped the vote because not everyone was there. So I think there's a bunch of confusion about whether or not they're voting or not. And I think she just tabled it till the next one. Everyone could be there, or has an option if they aren't going to be there to vote via email or some form.
And so what we have in our packet is what's been received. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board at this point in time? On the watercraft? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Sure. Next item of business is the Land Use Committee. I think that's Gerald Smith. Have a presentation for us.
Sure. And if you want to use a clicker,
Sure.
just hit the arrow.
Goodness, you want to do my clicker?
I can.
Well, thank you, Nancy, and thank you to the board and the Lake Kiowa property owners. It's my pleasure tonight to provide you with a land use annual update overview. Pleased to be able to do that again. This is one of the new items, I think, in the last year or two that Nancy and Bill Little and the board had put into place, is come to the board and provide an overview of the various committees that are in existence in Kiowa and give us an update. And the board has done a lot of work around vision, mission, and core values. And we've tried to align some of our work on the land use committee along the same lines to align it with that. I'm going to start off by showing you a view of Little Wolf Park. Little Wolf Park, you're looking kind of northeast from the par 3 toward the driving range to the old driving range to the lake. This gives you an overview. You might recall that probably 12 or 14 years ago, we bought 52 acres. That did not include the old driving range and the 2 potential residential lots or development areas there. So we purchased that, and for better part of 10 or 11 years, nothing happened, except we did lease it out. Cattle farmers, a rancher, right, Rich, and able to take advantage of that. But from this position, right under you, you can see the par 3, and this is an older view. The sod on the driving range has completely grown in, And if you've been over there, you can certainly attest to that. The roadway you see coming in off of Kiowa Drive West is right there by the cove, comes all the way in, goes past the driving range around to the Par 3 restroom and pavilion area. Okay. Which way you want to point this? Right here, this is a little bit more of a recent view. Shows on the far left the Par 3 course, the driving range, the new driving range, and in the gray on the east side and on the north end, you see the gray area. That is area for potential future development. We had our open house or a grand opening on the driving range and the Par 3 in October. So we've been up and running about 6 or 7 months. This is the Par 3. This is looking at it. You're looking at it from the opposite direction. You're looking at it from the east to the west. And at that time, we had the restroom there, not the pavilion, but we had the outline of the holes 1 through 9, along with the chipping and the putting area. So let me talk to you a little bit about the Land Use Committee responsibility. We try to ensure that every land and development decision in Littlewell Park and other undeveloped properties, what would those be? Front gate, down by the dam, what limited property we have around the water crossings, that we protect our community's character, we safeguard the lake, and we preserve the property values in alignment with our long-term vision. None of us want to see our properties go to pot, right? Our committee supports the community by reviewing, evaluating, and recommending different development and property use in ways that preserve the lake environment, protect property values, provide attractive and enjoyable amenities, and maintain the high-quality lifestyle that we expect. We have no authority to approve anything. The properties include Littlewell Park and the other undeveloped properties that I mentioned. Our role is to review, evaluate, and recommend. We do not have the authority. The authority rests or it resides with the POA Board of Directors. And as we look at properties, we may bring into discussions lake and parks. We may bring in other groups, other committees that have a say in the matter. It's not just our committee making all the recommendations. It's in tandem, in partnership with other committees where they might apply here at Kiowa. Oh, go back one. What is the value we provide to Lake Kiowa? We provide value by protecting the best we can our property values. We preserve the character and ensure consistent development that aligns with our goals. In short, it serves as the steward of how the community looks, grows, and increases its value over time. Who serves on this committee? We have a committee. I've been the chair for, I think, 3 to 4 years. Myself, we have George on, Jim Fox, Jeff Hecker, Dylan Ott, Clark Enright, Don Barber, and Rich Augustiniak, ex officio. And most of those committee members have agreed to return and serve for another term, another year, which is great. And as Nancy said, if anyone here has an interest in being on the Land Use Committee, see one of the board members or see myself, we have great benefits. This kind of gets to the vision, mission, and core values. And I'm not going to read this line by line, but you can see how it reiterates what I just talked about regarding beauty, enhancements in the amenities, the growth, property values, high lifestyle residents expect, respect the neighbors, maintain integrity and character of the community. Kiowa's been very successful for nearly 60 years, and we want to see it be highly successful for another 60 years. What did we do? What have we done in the last 2 years? I mentioned for the first 10 or 12 years, nothing happened here except a few stray cattle out on the 52 acres, but we renamed it. We are quitting the use of the word 52 acres. It's now referred to as Little Wolf Park. And it is an attractive amenity from the viewpoint of many of us. We established it as a new and attractive area for residents of Kiowa to come and enjoy. We relocated the former driving range, made it significantly larger, completed the construction of a new expanded driving range within the park. We opened a new 9-hole par 3 golf course with a putting green chipping area. If you haven't driven it, if you're not a golfer, but you haven't driven in there, I encourage you to go in there, make a circle, take a loop, and take a look at it. It's very, very nice. Along with those major items, we've also implemented and put in various improvements: a roadway, stone signage, driving range, par 3, putting green chipping, a pond, a walking trail soon to come, restroom, pavilion, along with enhanced landscaping. What are the opportunities that lie before us in the future? Are the opportunities that we have, we're identifying future projects for the park and other undeveloped properties. We're working in tandem with other groups, committees that might have an interest. Continue to integrate Little Wolf Park into the general maintenance schedule. You know, if you go 3 or 4 weeks without mowing that property, it's back to where it was. So Brian and Scott and the team, Rich's team, has done a good job keeping it mowed and keeping it trimmed and keeping it looking nice. We'll need to continue to generate funds for the maintenance of the par 3 course. A new item that many of you may not have heard of, the fire department approached Dan, myself, and Rich and the board to talk about potential use of property on Little Wolf Park on the north end of the property where the old driving range used to be, with the idea that they would like to potentially install a helipad that would be able to be used for a life care, fly in, fly out, get you to care as soon as possible. That's going to be contingent upon, I guess, as a next step, they're determining there are grants available for them to do so. And then we would then be in discussions with them about arrangement on the property and where and how that might look. So these are the items that we're working on. We have a walking trail. We're hopeful that construction will start on that probably in the third quarter of 2026. You'll hear from Jim Fox a little bit later, I think, and potentially some protective netting on one of the holes that would protect walkers coming through that area. A fishing pier as you turn in to Little Wolf Park right off of Kiowa Drive West, you see that fishing pond. And the idea is that could potentially be a fishing pier with a little docking that people could fish off of. And then I mentioned the helipad that potentially could come to life. What are some of the longer term objectives that we have identified and are put on the list? Potentially a boat and RV storage, an amenity center, recreation projects, potentially a Westgate entry exit, and potentially a practice facility next to the driving range that would be hitting bays, which many clubs are moving to these days. Where do we need help from the board? We need help from the board in making decisions and approving the go forward with RFPs and contracts on the various items listed here, the walking trail, the netting, as well as the fishing pier. These are items from the land use committee. And I know the board is dealing with several other projects, so this gets put in line, right? So that's pretty much my spiel, my overview. Anyone from the board have any questions that I might address or answer?
Gerald, just a side note, I was up on the practice green up there one day and had this car stop, and this fella came out and he walked over and just was looking, and all of a sudden he just went, "Can I ask you a question?" And he started asking questions, wanting to know what was up here, and I told him a par 3 golf course, the putting and chipping green, the driving range, the pavilion. And he said, I get to use, he was a new owner who was just scoping out the property, and says, I really get to use this all for free? And I says, yes. He says, wow, this is fantastic.
Tell him he's got to pay his POA dues. Right. Any other comments or questions before I sit down?
I have one comment, and this was great. Thank you, Gerald, and I appreciate you being the first one up in this cycle. I know we had a little pause. You led the way. Great. Thank you.
Guinea pig?
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying not to use that word, but yes. Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it, Gerald. Thank you. All right. Next item of business is the golf committee in regard to donation of a tree.
Thank you, Nancy. We had an anonymous donor that wanted to give a tree to the golf course, preferably on number 14 with a plaque. And so that went by the donations committee, which approved it. Then it came to the golf committee, which also approved it. And now it's resting with our green superintendent and some of the other golfing assistants that help him make the decision. They already have a plan that was done some time ago that locates the area where a tree would be acceptable and not interfere with golf. None of us that golf like trees that interfere with us. So they're looking at the appropriate spot and then they're going to come back and let us know where it's going to be if the board approves the project.
Do you have a motion?
I move that we accept the donation.
Do we know what type of tree it will be?
Short and narrow.
Short and narrow. What are you talking about?
They're still considering that based on the location and the soil.
All right, you have a motion before you to approve a placement of a donation tree on hole number 14, and you have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? It is 8-0, Kendall. You have approved a tree of some type to be placed on number 14 somewhere. I'm thinking about right there in front of the pond or something like that, right? Like the whole side over here just fell out. So anyway. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Ronnie. All right. Next item of business is the Rules Committee in regard to Rule 3.3.1.2A. George.
Thank you. Please don't put that by the pond. It took a tornado to take that tree out. As you're all aware, there was an incredible amount of feedback after we posted the potential sexual harassment rule. You've got them all in your packet. I think it proves that the process for approving either revisions or new rules by members works very well. Dan has been very, very busy in revising the verbiage for this rule. And I believe it takes, if not all, at least most of the members' objections and questions and concerns. He's addressed them. You should have the markups in your packet. They're all in red. And I believe the position at this point is the board can approve the markups or send it back to the Rules Committee or approve them to the point where they can be viewed by the members again for comments.
And just for the board, there was a clean version put at your desk with, since the red line version was pretty hard to follow. So this was an attempt to make it a little bit cleaner.
I've been notified that there's some concerns by our legal authority here that might want to present something to the board and the members, and he has some concerns. So I'll let Jim identify that. I haven't seen it, heard it.
Jim, would you like to say anything? Hey, Ronnie, can you hand him your microphone? Thanks, James.
I would just first of all say that in my internal email, I agree. I think the process has worked very well. I think some comments were made the very first night. They appeared in the member comments. I agree that Dan's updates have addressed those. My remaining comment is I would take out the very last reference to the Texas Labor Code, Chapter 21. It's the very last portion of the very last section. And that's just because the law is the law and statutes change. And when you put a specific statute in, it can affect you and have to make you re-amend. So whatever the law is and applies, it applies. I think that's unnecessary and could cause required amendments that you wouldn't want to necessarily have to deal with on an ongoing basis. So my comment was very minor.
Thank you. So I guess, Nancy, it's how would you like to proceed? How would the board like to proceed with this?
So that's what I'll ask the board. How would you like to move forward? Do you want to send this again out to the members as it has been edited? Or you send back to the Rules Committee, either one? Back to the members? All right.
Back to the members.
Okay. All right. And so go ahead. So if I understood correctly, then we're going to send out the first part, which is updated, would send out all of this. Is that correct? Because that's all the red line. You've taken everything out. It's
So two things. So one, we'd make the change that James suggested to the internal employee process. And I would, yes, send that. My suggestion would be to send exactly what you have in your hand. There's a couple small changes to it that's marked up on that. And if there's any other tweaks that people want to make today, we can notate that and make those changes. But I would like to make a motion to send this back to the members for comment with the James's changes and the slight tweaks that are on that document you had in front of you.
second. All right. Is there any discussion? You have a motion to send this back out to the membership? And we would take out that very last phrase on the back.
I had a question just from when we sent back. This is probably a Tidwell question. It says removal from POA property, and my just comment, can we remove a guest from a POA member's home? That was just vague, and that was just my only concern again.
So we could update that to say community, POA community property or common property, whatever the right term is.
That have gone around. It's been like a little whirl of dervish. So use your microphone. Thank you. James, do you have a comment?
I do. I think that it's important to note that all of this is really contingent upon the fact that this is relating to common areas and or amenity areas. So, and that starts out in the very initial section, and I think that's an important distinction. And so I do not envision this as patrolling people's homes like Big Brother. So I don't read it like that. I do think that tightening up the language raised, there were some valid concerns raised. I think the language has addressed that. And so I think that that is an important distinction. And I think that introduction basically frames the entire interpretation of the rest of the rule. I know that there were a lot of comments about the interpretation of how this gets done. Again, who's going to be Big Brother, for lack of a better term. And it helped me to kind of interpret this when you go back to our existing governing documents of the rules. Article 3 of the rules has a whole list of 3.2 that talks about what it takes for a complaint to be generated, how it goes to the rules committee, how there's a hearing, how there is an appeal process. And so when we create this rule, all of those procedures will and protections for both sides will already be in place. And I think that that was there's a general reference in the in this new amendment that talks about due process, and it talks about using the standard enforcement procedures, and members can look at that, and that is in the rules section 3.2 if they want to get into the details, but that's where that language is referencing, where it talks about hearings before the rules committee and appeals to the board.
And James, would you recommend that in this rule we reference that rule? Do we need to reference it in some way?
If you wanted to, in under the due process section, you could, but I think 3.2 is going to apply regardless. So I think there's a lot of this that I've looked at, and in my internal comments, a lot of it is style over substance. So I would say that that's the same thing. The rule's going to apply. I think it's a style issue as to whether or not you want to reference it specifically.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, Lisa.
Okay, my question about this is I want to make sure I understand it, like the examples of prohibited contact. So we're going to say that if somebody screams or somebody, I live on a golf course. If I'm in my backyard watering plants and I hear somebody make a explicit comment to somebody else, we have governance over that.
That's not what this rule is about. This rule is about someone being sexually harassed in a common area. So I got some of those emails. If I curse at someone on the golf course, is that now I'm going to get a citation? No. I had one email or one comment that said, if I go out at the end of my driveway and say, Jesus is the savior, and someone gets offended, now I'm going to get, dinged by this rule. And that's not the case. So really what it's all about is if you're, a person that, that a reasonable person in their situation feels like they're being sexually harassed, can they make a complaint? Yes. So they would complain. We go through the same process. Melanie's team does what they do. Then there's an opportunity to go to George's group, then to the board. So this, nowhere in here does it say, if you curse on the golf course, someone's going to run out from the woods and hand you a ticket.
I know, but to me, sexual harassment, if I say something to Chris or whatever, and it's on the patio and he doesn't appreciate it, that's a civil event. That's not a POA zoom in offense.
Well, obviously, if you were
On your patio?
Oh, well, no, I mean, on the patio up here, because it's saying any common area, you can walk by a table and hear somebody say something to somebody else. That to me, I mean, I've been involved in sexual harassment before that, and it was a civil issue. It wasn't a governing issue of where you live. I can see the employees. Oh my God, yes.
See, that's where I have a little different opinion, and I put a one pager in your packet that talked about why I think this is important. I mean, to me, it's about protecting the community. If we know sexual harassment's going on and we don't do anything about it, could someone come back to the community, to the POA, and say, yes, you're liable because you knew about it and didn't do anything about it. I think what people are missing, and a lot of comments on this is, someone says something, because, they're sitting around the table having a few beers. Well, did someone get offended? Did someone feel uncomfortable? Did someone feel that their job was put into a difficult situation because of it? Did they feel like they couldn't be part of some activities at Kiowa because of it? That's what we're talking about. No one's trying to say we're the vocabulary police. We're saying that we want to protect, whether it's members, guests, or employees, from behavior that's truly reprehensible, that someone is doing something that makes them feel like they're unsafe, their job's at risk if they're a staff member, or that the member feels like they can't come to the lodge or play in the golf course because of that behavior. I think the other piece is, in the example that we've used before, is that, and unfortunately, these things happen. Thankfully, not very often, but they have happened, do happen. If you're a situation and you're a server in the lodge and someone does something to you that's egregious, that person decides they want the sheriff involved. That's obviously their prerogative. But so say like goes extreme case, sheriff gets involved, that person gets arrested, and then all of a sudden they're out in bail 2 weeks later, and then they're back at the chair in the lodge, and that same server's there. Are we doing the right thing from a POA to protect that person? Probably not. So I think there's lots of liabilities here from a POA perspective and a lot of protecting that we have the opportunity to do. This is no way, shape, or form is designed to overregulate or police someone's discussions in their house or even discussions at the lodge. It's protecting people from getting sexually harassed.
So, Nancy, I've got something, and this will be a question to James after I'm done, but I'm going to read something to someone. As I've done some research in the last couple of weeks, Property Owners Association and HOAs in the U.S. have legal obligations to prevent and address sexual harassment both under the Fair Housing Federal Act, rules and state laws, as well as through their own governing documents. So what it states is prevention, including clear rules in their covenants, conditions, and restrictions, or their bylaws prohibiting abusive, harassing, or intimidating behavior, including sexual conduct. Who does that pertain to? It pertains to the behavior towards residents, guests, or management. So it's stated, James, should we include that it's mandatory for an HOA or a POA to have that?
So separately, we already have a harassment rule, right? And this is somewhat included. So I think that's a lot of the members' feedback is we already have a rule. Why are we diving in deeper?
We don't have a harassment rule. We have a rule about interfering with employees.
It says harassment.
Interfering with employees. It says nothing about member, guest, member, employee. So, but again, harassment is to me different than sexual harassment. And I think to me, there's not a rule. This is why in the discussions that we started having last March on this was that this was a gap, that the existing interfering rule, is pretty lean and can be open to a lot of interpretation because of that. There's a lot more detail and examples in this rule around what's appropriate or not appropriate. In that rule, there's nothing. It just says if we're interfering with staff member or whatever the right language is, but it doesn't say what's interfering, right? If someone gets mad because their food came out wrong in the lodge and they say something loud, is that interfering? I don't know.
That's why George exists. Well, not George's group exists. They're going to take a sexual issue a lot further than someone saying pee off or whatever. So that's my opinion on it. And that's what the feedback I've received as well. I think they think that rule is sufficient. And I think that's a lot of this feedback. And that's why, like I said, the rules committee will make the adjustment on how long it is, where we're trying to define it specifically and do an egregious act on this one specifically.
Any other board members have a question? Comment?
Well, I just think if we're going to do something like this, we need to maybe beef up our harassment policy and not have a specific sexual harassment policy. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense to have something that goes against what everything else says. So if you're saying that our harassment policy is too weak, why aren't we focusing on that and trying to make it a little bit stronger and make it have more teeth than go out there and put in some type of sexual harassment policy, which is just another overstep by security in the board?
We don't have a harassment policy. We have an interfering with employee policy. It has nothing to do with 90% of what's on that piece of paper. And this is not a security item. This is about how we conduct ourselves within Lake Kiowa. And to Cecil's point, this is something that the guidance we have is that we should have something in place and they're at risk or liable if we don't.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
that's
part of the reason that this came up.
that's the point that I raised. I don't feel comfortable with the member stuff either, but from a from a legal litigation standpoint, James, if you jump in.
So when you see big summaries like that, you're seeing a conglomeration of different states. So Texas is unique from other states, and our laws are not the same. So I would say that Texas probably has defenses that may not be applicable in other states. Um, there was a internal document that went around that talked about different issues. I litigate these sorts of things, and so I want to be very careful about what I say because the legal duties and responsibilities are very specific and they can be very fact dependent. So I would not want to do anything that assumes a legal duty that we do not have to assume. So I'm very cautious in the way that I would phrase some of those things, and I made comments on the internal document because there were some things in there that I think they weren't wrong, but they were very broad. And when you get down to issues regarding duty, breach, and causation, which is what these type of cases deal with, you need to be very specific about what those elements are and what those issues are. So I would not go any further in stating any liabilities or duties because it's going to be very fact specific. I do think as a general rule, and you can look at the Texas Workforce Commission website and those sorts of things, if you are in litigation, a policy like this can be a fact defense. So for example, if you have a golf tournament and there is someone that is harassing players, having a policy like this where a person being harassed on your property has a clear remedy with the owner of that property, I do believe that that can be a factual defense that could be important if you are sued in that scenario. Is it legally required? I don't believe that it is. But again, it is something that can be a factual defense. So I think that would have to be the way that I would answer that question.
Okay, for those on the board that say we already have a rule for sexual or any kind of harassment, it does not exist. It's interfering with an employee, and it makes no mention of being harassment. The term harassment's not in the rule. It's 3.3.1.2. Well, I have it in front of me, and I don't see any. No member, resident, contractor, leasee, or guest shall in any way interfere, impede, intervene, or intrude in the affairs of the association employees.
Further down, interference includes harassing, abusing, intimidating, threatening, bullying, or engaging. It says harassing. That's what I was referring to.
I don't see that in my copy, which is June of last year.
I got all this. I can't answer if it's right at all on this instance. Which number is it? Anything with them?
3312. I have June 23rd, last year's filing. There's no mention of harassment that I see here.
That's what he was looking at. That's what he's looking
So
at.
are we going to carry it as far as Jeremy walks by and hears somebody say something inappropriate to somebody else? Are we going to carry it that far
Harassing.
where it's the responsibility of him to bring it to the POA's attention that it happened as a reporter?
There's nothing in this rule that says anything about that.
Okay.
If you are feeling like you're subject to some of this situation, you have a remedy to have the POA help intervene on your behalf and do some research around this. And if the research comes out that says that, yes, someone was doing something really stupid, then there is an opportunity for the POA to help intervene. In no way, shape, or form is it designed to police language. In no way, shape, or form is it designed to usurp any role of the law enforcement. This is solely a POA piece. I think the idea that this is like all of a sudden going to be the curse word police or whatever is completely not in any way, shape, or form part of what's provided to you.
It may not be intended for that, but we know unintended consequences. And if we throw this out here, I mean, potentially that is going to happen.
So the scenario is Jeremy walks by a table in the lodge and he hears someone say something stupid. So that your scenario is Jeremy's going to complain and that person's going to get a fine. Okay. And then how does that apply to this rule? Okay. But did someone that feels harassed make a complaint? So that's what this rule says. If you're subject to this type of behavior, you have an opportunity to do it. It doesn't say if someone overheard someone have a conversation, you have to report it, and regardless, we're going to suspend them from the lodge. What this does say is someone feels uncomfortable, harassed, not able to participate in activities or be comfortable in common areas because of that sexual harassment. They have an ability to get the POA involved to help structure that. In addition, they obviously feel, if they feel desire to do so, get the sheriff involved.
Right now,
What's this last thing? So the last thing sorry, Nancy. So the last time I was aware of a situation, the employee did not want to get law enforcement involved and preferred that we take care of it within the POA and help them feel safe at the workplace.
so right now you have a motion on the table. Do you want to vote on that? So you can vote on that to move it forward the way that it is for member comment. You can vote to not move it forward, and then it goes back to the Rules Committee. So those are your two choices on the motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Other discussion? All right. Calling for the question. All those in favor of moving it forward as it is, please raise your hand. All right. And those opposed and want it to go back to the Rules Committee, raise your hand. So you have 2 to 6, and it will go back to the Rules Committee. And on the website currently, as Dylan just showed, it's the one that was registered in for 2026, the rules, and the rules has it in there, harassing in there. And so just so might want to go back and look at that and go back and look at what we have there. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the discussion. All right, moving forward. Next item on the agenda are playgrounds. And so Carol Blair.
Yeah. I do have a committee. They're invisible in case you don't see it, but my committee has lots of children, and so they're home with their children. This is hard for them to make the time to come now. So I'm going to show you. This is our PowerPoint play. It's on our website, lkplays.com. And it's just a little bit about why we think that we need a new playground. And if I'd have had the ladies here, they're old enough to tell me that they've played on this playground before. They're 35 years old and they played on this playground. So I have to say it's worked pretty well, but now it's kind of past its age and we need to go something up here. So the East Beach, that's what we want to do on the East Beach, but right now we're putting that on the back burner and we are going to facilitate everything on the West Beach. The mulch depth, we've already taken care of that. The fall zones are not compliant. We've taken care of most of those. There's still a couple. The unfenced areas are not visible from the parking lot. The structure offers little for the toddlers, and open bridges are a known concern among parents. And what they're talking about is that water thing that goes through, what do you call that? culvert. There we go. It's critical that we improve the safety and the quality of the only amenities that we have to offer for our littlest members. And the community survey agrees. The current progress right now is we have a group, we have meetings, we have a website. I've received 3 bids. Of course, they have to go through a bidding process that I have to say Larry and Jim Fox have been really helpful with us on this. The playground rules or goals are just to be better safety, and we want parents to feel comfortable playing on this playground while they're sitting there eating or doing, whatever they want to do. And I will tell you, this weekend I took a picture of it because we might think about this too. Is there was 12 kids playing volleyball on the volleyball court, so I thought that was real interesting to see them do that. Next slide. Here's our plan. The West Beach, we want to replace it with an updated playground that meets code requirements. We want to appeal to different age groups. We want this to work through 2-year-olds to 12 for this build and so that we can serve a larger number of kids. Better visibility from the patio and the pavilion. That's a request of these moms so that they can go and have lunch or whatever and let the kids go out there and play, and it was safe. We want to do it once and do it right. We could put lipstick on a pig if we wanted to, but we don't really want to do that. Space is a challenge. What we're doing with the West Playground is we're going to expand it. And if you want, it'll be up here on the board, I think, but you can also go out here and look and see so that way we can cover the number of kids we want to serve, and we can still have it so that we're compliant. The swings are a big deal about being compliant. Don't cut corners, just meet it to code. Okay, next one. The phase 2 will include the East Beach and small upgrades. The moms were saying they would really like some type of little playground at the little Fox Pond and maybe another place that they could do that. But that's after we do the West Beach. Every great community has a place where children run free and families find their way to each other. Let's build ours. Well, contact me. What's the next slide on there? Is that it? Okay. So what we're coming to you today is to let you know that we have been working. We have the 3 bids. Right now, $188,000 is our cheapest bid, and that does not include the fence around the property or expanding the size that we want to do. We have one that's 220, and I just had another one call today that thinks she can, match the $188,000 bid with hers, but we'll see that. So how are we going to do that? So that's why I'm here. So I have heard through the grapevine that money hasn't been allocated, and I couldn't see from back here to see if it was on there. Money has been allocated to the playground. So what we're proposing is that we go and we're going to get pledges. On June 27th, we're having a pledge party. And it's parents, it's kids, it's grandparents, it's grandkids, it's in the pavilion. We're not asking to do an auction or anything. Everybody's tired of those, and so we're not going to do that. It's going to be a pledge party, and you can pledge right now by going on the LK Plays. I have little pledge cards up here that has a QR code. We've made it as easy as possible for you to come in and pledge. When you pledge, it goes directly to one of the girls, and then they keep it. And then, of course, then it has to follow Lori Brindell and then come this way. So I didn't realize that to ask you to earmark some money for this, it had to be on the agenda. So what I'm asking is that questions that you have about this, and if next month that we could put on the agenda about how much the board will help us in this endeavor, whether it's what's in there now, which I don't really know exactly what it is, or will the board help us with a percentage? We have about $20,000 from our board that's already been collected. And of course, I would love if we had 100% participation in this board, but that's it. I don't think I've missed anything. Dylan?
Just a question, like Jeff and Gerald, they built that, I don't know what to call it, the stone area with donators, call it. What'd y'all call that, Jeff? Like by the pavilion. Are y'all going to do something like that?
We are. You're going to, if you donate $1,000, you get a brick. If you donate $5,000, you can have 5 bricks. The par 3 did small and large bricks, and we just forget that. We're just going to do, it's a brick per, I guess how many would you get? 100 if you gave $100,000? We may do that, but we're also doing, if you've been to the zoo, you can see the little planks, the Trex planks. And if we get enough money, we want to build a bridge over that culvert, and just for safety purposes too. And so you would have your name on one of those planks going across the bridge. Was that what you were asking me, Dylan?
That's what me and I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do something similar to what the Park Three.
Right. Yeah.
One thing Chris and I learned through the pickleball process, you have to take whatever you want to do to the donation committee, and you're not supposed to deviate from whatever is in Lake Kiowa rules.
Right. And that's what we did. If you look on and I have other pledge forms over here that has a QR code on it, then they match what the donation, whatever you said.
Are you going to do the leaves too?
Yeah, for the leaves thing. Yeah. Yeah. We just thought that was easiest. And if you want to come and give me a tree or give me a couple of trees, we'll figure out something. You might not get a leaf up there, but you'll get something.
Anyone else have any questions of Carol? Dan?
Sorry. Maybe this is more Rich than Carol, but both. So, and these might be remedial, but so the role of the POA with design and development of this versus the role of committee how's that work?
Well, it could be similar to the par 3. Par 3 came forward. Basically, they donated money to get an architect. This would be a little bit different in that you don't really design a playground. Every playground bid's going to be a little bit different from however they do it. So basically what you need to do is develop a budget first. So you have to confirm your budget range, the area you want to build in, give that information to all the playground companies, and then they submit their proposals. So it'll be a similar process, but a little bit different. So the first thing we got to figure out is kind of what is our plan? What's our budget range and what's our general idea of what the area we want to work in and what 2 to 12, we have to give them parameters. We do that, and then we can do an RFP, send that out to all the playground companies, and then come back.
So Carol, when you say you have bids, you had companies say, here's what we're thinking and here's potential price points, but there wasn't like a formal RFP.
Again, if you look out in the lobby out there, there's actually a drawing. And so the people that we would like to use, the $188,000 people, again, they did Callisburg. Oh, and something I forgot to say is I'm going before the Kiwanis Club and also Lake Kiowa's women's golf. And we're hoping that both of those clubs will participate with us just a little bit and see what we can, get from there.
That's great. I 1,000% support this. There is some money in ARF that's been designated towards refurbishment, replacement of playgrounds. We also potentially talked using some of the money that's in the CDRF for this. So I think it'd be helpful, for you and whoever from your committee, and Rich and I get together, and then we can figure out what do we really have, and then come back and say what, if that's not enough, what do we need? I think we could do that pretty quickly, and then you and your committee can say, all right, we have X dollars, but if we had X plus $50,000 more, we could get
right. Like how much? If we knew how much the POA could generate for us, then we would know how much that we're going to have to raise. If for some reason we can't raise that whole thing, then we may not get to expand the park over there, but we can certainly put in some new equipment so that it's better for them.
That's a good discussion because CARF money could be used too. So, we could come up with some other ideas because I think this is imperative that we do this and find a way to do it the way we want to do it. So why don't we circle the wagons and then come back to the board with, here's what we think we have. and see if the board has appetite for spending CDRF or CAR for anything. And then we can make a better determination of what the budget could be. Because, I think people at Kiowa are unbelievably generous, as the par three and pickleball and everyone else has shown. But if we could do something like this for our kids without having to try to go back out with hat in hand, that would be, I think, helpful to move this forward.
One of the things you want to do is work with the Ways and Means Committee also, so that they can look at it and help make part of that determination.
Okay.
The 188 is only for the West Beach, if I remember correctly. Is that correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm. We didn't want it so that was an amount that was untouchable, or people would say, how are we ever going to raise all that money, And then we'll just see if anything we raise over that we don't need for the West Beach, it goes into the kitty for the East Beach. Who knows what we can, as a grandparent, I've got 3 grandkids. So anyways, so we'll see you next month then, and we will get
Going to go to the Ways and Means Committee.
Yeah.
And talk to the Ways and Means Committee, and talk to the treasurer and also Rich. And do we need to get an RFP? Because if you get that particular playground, it is like a set thing, right? Because it's not something we're designing, right? Okay. So we still
would still do an RFP. Basically, you would get the parameters and give it out. Same difference.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Any other questions? You good? All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. The next item on our agenda is to talk about Memorial Day. Our board meeting is scheduled for that Monday of Memorial Day. So do you want to do it that Monday of Memorial Day, or do you want to do it, can't do it the Tuesday after, because I think that's voting, if I remember correctly, elections are going on. So we can try to do it another day of that week. But I'm not really sure if there's any can on Wednesday because it's booked. Possibly Thursday or the week before on Monday. Any recommendations, thoughts?
Nancy, I think it would be good to have it on a day other than Monday, so we can see how many people show up to eat at the lodge and whether that would coordinate with changing the date permanently or the day permanent.
Okay. 26. What is that? We can't do it on a Tuesday. They can't do it on a Tuesday because there's elections going on. And so they're setting up for elections. Is that correct? Right, the next day. So in Wednesday, everything is usually booked on Wednesday, at least this room is. You could do it in the Southwest room, possibly.
Thursday looks good, though.
Thursday. Would you like to move it to Thursday?
Thursday, the 28th.
That's correct. So is that a good day, or you want to? Thoughts? Thursday, the 28th? Do I have a motion to move it? Chris?
Seconded.
Ronnie seconds it. You have a motion before you to approve moving the Memorial Day board meeting, Memorial Day board meeting on the 25th? 25th, thank you. And moving it to May the 28th. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. Did you vote? Okay. All right. 8-0, Kendall. So we will move that meeting to Thursday, 6:00 on May the 28th. All right. Next item on the agenda is Rich, I think your community manager report.
Yes, I'll start out with a couple funding requests. The first one you'll have in your packet is regarding to buoys, new replacement and some spare buoys for the lake as well as the swim areas. We have $5,000 in ARF. The additional expenditure is $7,764.48 for a total of $12,764.48. So the request is for that additional funding from ARF. Ways and Means has reviewed this and recommends the purchase.
I just have a question. So where are we with buoys right now out on the lake? Do you know, and what would this take us to just as a number?
I believe we probably have well over 80 buoys, not including the swim areas and not including wake and no wake. Those are just dock buoys. And then we replacing, I think, a couple wake, no wakes, a couple ski and ski outs, and then we have a couple spares.
Yeah, I know we've got some that are looking really bad.
And then the swim areas are pretty bad too and need to be replaced. Excuse me.
So Rich, you are going to replace the ones that are bad first. Okay. Is that what we decided? Okay. All right. All right. Before you have a motion, is there a motion, I should say? There's a recommendation from Rich to spend $12,764.48 for buoys. Is there a motion to approve? Chris, is there a second? Dan? All right. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor of spending the $12,764.48, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0, Kendall. Thank you. I'll get it. All right. Next item of business is in regard to our funding for security lake patrol boat.
Yes, and this has been proposed by Safety and Security. We've gone through a long process trying to select the boat. We've taken that to Ways and Means. Ways and Means has actually reviewed all this information in front of you, and they recommend not replacing the boat, push it off for another year, at least until the next budget cycle. But I just wanted to go over some of what the situation is and some of the reasoning. It's a 2014 Sea Arc. Both boat and Yamaha. Pertaining to some of the questions, there's no meter on the boat, so I don't really actually know how many hours are on it. It's a 12-year-old boat, shows just weather and wear, although it does operate fine, starts fine. I don't think there's any real mechanical issues with it. It was, again, pushed out a couple of years, so we reviewed the possibility of purchasing the boat. We went to what kind of boat would we want, a boat that's more suited for the lake from Texas Parks and game warden recommendations. So we just went through that entire process. We got bids, again, trying to show the process of going through procurement and purchasing correctly. And then after we went through everything, we're back to Ways and Means. It was actually in budget, so there was no additional funding required, but went through their review process, and they recommend not purchasing the boat.
Should be able to get the hours. The Sea Arc dealer went by there, and then he was just on his golf cart, and security got called, and he's like, "Forget it." But he wasn't able to plug into the ECM, but that ECM will have hours.
Okay.
Someone asked that question again earlier. We can get it. It's just going to have to go to the Sea Arc dealer, and it should be able to plug into the
Yeah,
ECM.
there's no meter on it readily available.
Cecil?
Yeah, so I was down at the boat and in the boat, and it runs, and what I've been told, I was there with Melanie, was that the boat motor gets maintained on a regular basis, so it runs fine. It's not the prettiest thing. It floats. At some given point in time, I mean, just to be honest with you, it's not what we would like, but it's functional. At some given point in time, we need lake patrol out there for a number of hours every day, every week, every month, so at some given point that what we have is not going to be adequate. I think we should follow what Ways and Means is telling us.
So what's
Bonnie?
the jet ski for? Why do we have a jet ski too?
Well, that's beyond my time, and I couldn't answer that.
That was a recommendation from Safety and Security as well as security chief to have better access. That boat, again, it's not as maneuverable, not as fast if you do want to get someplace. So it's just another method and a possibility of like during July 4th, we did have two people out there, so you mean more than one area because you put the boat in one spot, everybody else goes someplace else. So it's an opportunity to have two personnel, yeah, on the water.
Nancy,
Running.
I think we need to get more hours on the lake before a new boat's justified. We need a policy and a number of hours that have to be covered just as importantly as we're covering the streets and stop signs. And when we've demonstrated an ability to utilize what we have, then we can look at what the needs are that would enhance the production of security on the lake.
Thank you. And I think that was also one of the conversations I believe the Watercraft Committee had also, is that doing a better job of patrolling to make it safe. So
I agree with everything that Ronnie just said. I think the other opportunity that we have, 2 meetings ago, Nancy, you talked about trying to put together a procurement contract process. And we did have our first discussion with that Ways and Means this month. So, if we have this boat as kind of a case study first time through, to kind of proof of concept, we could probably use that as well. So we can gather information in a way that can come back to all the interested stakeholders in a consolidated, clear way before it comes back to a vote of whether we want to buy the boat or not.
Okay.
Sorry. It was my sense that the last security committee meeting that we had, that Melanie fully understood the importance of putting more people on the lake. And there was a recommendation, I thought it came from us, that was going to happen. And so she's fully aware of that and intends to comply with that. Not her favorite thing, of course. She likes people driving around in case we have somebody that needs to lead an ambulance somewhere. But anyway, we are aware of that, and so is she.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Anyone else? All right, Rich. Next item for you.
Going to move on to Jim Fox on a couple project updates.
Sorry, I looked over that, Jim.
Sorry, point of order. Do we need to formally table that, or is it just good with this discussion? I don't know. It's on the agenda. That's why I bring it up. I don't know what the right rule is.
Well, I think we got a recommendation from the Ways and Means not to move forward. And so I don't know that the board necessarily needs, unless anybody else feels like we need to vote on it.
I'm fine with that. I just want
Okay.
to make sure.
Right.
Follow the right process.
Okay. We'll start with the front gate project. And hopefully this will be some good news for everybody. Just kind of in a review, as a part of the update here, we bid the front gate. We had some plans for that with the guard hut and the guard house. That was bid by Bluestone in December. That bid came in at $550,000. We worked out an agreement to do some value engineering with Bluestone. They did first round of that. The contractor, who was the low bid, revised his numbers, came in about $537,000. And so we wound up doing another value engineering plan where we combined basically the rooms in the guard hut and the guard house and put it more or less in the place where the guard house sits now. So we got back revisions from Bluestone on March 19th. We've looked at those plans, provided comments back. The contractor received those plans then, and he had some questions. We answered those earlier this month. And we've got a revised bid back from Foster Construction on April 21st, last week. So when we looked at, we've kind of reviewed all of the itemized numbers that the bid Foster came back with, and I can show you kind of a summary of that in a spreadsheet at the end of this. But basically, the bid amount is $368,725,000. It's that includes a concrete approach, which we kind of looked at as an alternate if we needed to save money. We do have about 82,000. I think the numbers actually in your spreadsheet may be a little bit different from that. $82,000 that we're estimating right now that are POA expenses. And again, I'll cover what those items are a little later. And so the total project cost would be about $475,000. That includes the Bluestone construction management fee, which is 10% of the construction cost, less the $12,000 that we did for the value engineering. So, yeah, in general, what I'd say is we've got an opportunity here, and if we could approve this, which we can't tonight, there's no action item, there's no contracts, obviously, but a not to exceed amount of $480,000 we and move as quickly as we could on that. Foster did come back and say costs are going up. He said so. There'll be some escalation the longer we go with this. So. But just to give you a quick idea of what this is and let everybody kind of see, I think we've covered a little bit, so I'll go through fairly quickly on that. But the guardhouse kind of shifts forward towards 902 a little bit. It's 756 square feet as opposed to 500 square feet right now. Septic moves over. That's some of the costs that we're tightening up, right? Scott's been real helpful in doing some of the research on some of those things. There are a few little landscape beds. There's no landscaping in them right now, but at least there'd be a place to kind of help beautify this a little bit too. I think that's always been one of the goals, to have it look a little nicer too. The concrete approach, you can see there, when a vehicle pulls up with the guardhouse shifting a little bit, there's still weight of vehicles that would be hanging out over the current concrete on that. So the gates are basically relocated fairly close to where they are now. You won't be able to read all that floor plan, but I just wanted you to have that. Hopefully you've got that in your packet there. We do have what we call traffic management center, 3 workstations there. The chief's office, which kind of overlooks all of that. And this is one of the things we were doing with the guardhouse was putting in a break room and a little kitchenette type of thing. Right now, if you ever go in there, they got their microwave right there by the monitors, and it's it's tight. It's real tight in there. Also some lockers and some storage out there. So these are fairly accurate elevations of the building. We haven't picked materials or anything of that nature, but generally speaking, that's what they would look like from the 4 different sides. And this was the concept rendering, which I did. So it's not again, it's very close, but it's not generated by Bluestone. Let's put it that way. We would have 2 gates. We can put in a 3rd gate. That's part of the process to do a trap area. If we wanted to not staff this in 12 to 5 a.m., whatever. I'm not certain Melanie's in agreement with that, but if you're looking for hours somewhere, there's a possibility we could reduce some hours there. So this is another look at it in a little different way. Would be a privacy fence in the back. It's part of the bid. It gives the employees an area out there where they can have a picnic table, a grill, or step out and in back there. So again, just some quick renderings of the furniture. These would be custom built as a part of the project, so it wouldn't look exactly like that. But chief's office, again, you can kind of see all 3 directions from that. An idea of what the kitchenette might look like, and the lockers. Again, the lockers are part of it. The kitchenette's part of it. They'd be over and under. We'd have 16 lockers in there. Furniture that you see there, we've got a file cabinet that we can move over, but and then the restroom, which is ADA compliable, would also serve as a safe room. It would have CMU block construction, so it would serve for storm or some other incident type of situation. This is what at least the current thinking is. We probably want to talk to the contractor again if we move forward with this about how to temporarily route traffic. But we could set a temporary guardhouse container office, which would be ground level, be easy to step out of, and help service. We could try to maintain one lane of traffic anyway, in and out, and still give the contractor the necessary fenced off area that they need to move quickly with the project and not try to phase everything. And just again, a reminder that we have a long-term plan. It has been a long time since since we came up with the long-term plan, but it still fits well within that. And then you're not going to, audience probably can't read those numbers very well. Let me just cover the bigger numbers there. The guardhouse, 368, 725. POA costs are 82,000. Included in that is the actual gate installation. The wiring and everything would be done by the contractor, but we would put in the gates and kind of avoid the middleman on that one. Temporary facilities, furniture, fixtures, septic system. So those are a few of the costs that the POA would have. So the total project cost $450,725. Again, if we use 10% less than $12,000, we have about $25,000 of fees that would come in another agreement with Bluestone to actually manage the construction on this. So the total project would be about $475,000. Again, that's why we're saying 480 would give us a little bit of contingency too. So with that, I'll just open it up to comments and discussions.
Any questions from the board in regard to what Jim talked about, front entrance? Nope. Are you pleased with it? Not pleased with it? Is it what you want?
Jim, do you
Bonnie?
think this is the best plan we've seen so far?
Yes, it's the best plan in the sense that it's financially viable. Yes. I mean, we are in a position where I think at least within what the election had said and everything, we are within those amounts, and it's not going to get any cheaper. I mean, this is about as good as we can do, and bringing all the elements that we've talked about for the security staff and upgrading their working conditions there.
And I would add to that, because from my perspective, talking with Melanie, that this really gives her what she wanted in the way of one house.
Yeah, she was in favor of, and her staff was too, of trying to stay together with this. So this is, I think, complying with what their wishes were. So again, it's a good option from my perspective.
So Jim, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jim, have you considered how this is going to work in with our other projects currently underway? Can we add this in?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this should be a top priority for as long as it's going on. So we'll make it work.
So just a question, let's see. Hey, Scott, can you go back to the one that says temporary traffic routing?
Oh, I forget I've got that in my.
Jim, can you go back to?
Scott's probably better at it than I am. There you go.
Okay. So on this one, we'll use part of the old circle driveway for the log cabin for parking or whatever, if you need that as temporary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously it could be a staging area for the contractor. I'm just looking at it. I did this here saying they've got to have access into that fenced area. And so if we go over there and try to stage them, they got to go all the way around. So it may be better to put the construction staging over kind of where the temporary parking is, and then bring the employee parking or visitor parking closer to the temporary office that we would have there. So yes, it could be used for that.
And do we lose those parking spaces that are currently in front? Does that sort of go around? Are they going to take a little bit of that edge, if I understood correctly?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really tight in there backing. If you had a 3/4 ton truck or something, it might be a little tight, but I think we could get security vehicles in there yet. I think that's kind of almost a wait and see how where the construction fencing goes. We'll have a lane through there. I mean, we can maintain that as an opening to, in other words, if people are denied access, they can go back around that way. So they can still use that lane coming through. And vice versa, I guess you could come around the other direction if you're exiting and coming back in. Rich and I have actually talked about too how we could maybe utilize the east gate a little more during this process, and whether we could route some of the vendors through that gate, even maybe staffing it with another little kind of field office or hut of some sort out there where we could, during peak hours anyways, you could staff that and try to get the vendors in a little easier. Because what's going to happen with one lane is the members are going to get caught behind somebody that's, spend a little time checking in as a vendor on the thing, so that it's going to be, there's no doubt it's going to be inconvenient for a while. The contractors talked about 4 to 6 months as his time frame. If
That's what that was my next question.
So there's just no way around doing this without a great deal of expense to try to route traffic a different way. So again, I'm not hearing a lot, but I guess we want to continue to proceed with getting the agreement from Bluestone and bring all that information back for board review.
Because that's my next question. So yes, we'd have to get all the financials and all the figures. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yes. Please do so.
Okay.
I hear no other. So yes, I say move forward. And yes, please get that information for us so we can make a decision.
All right.
And move forward.
Bluestone's on notice already. We gave them a heads up last week. So
okay. Thank you, Jim. Going forward, what's next?
The trail update. Gerald mentioned it in his land use there, and I go very quickly through this. The contract's complete for $125,000 with McCreary Property Services. I talked to Brian on Friday. Our next step basically is to meet on site. He has got one project that's fairly time consuming right now, and then he's got to lay some sod. So in about a week, we will get together. We'll do a little pre-construction meeting out there, and we'll be getting ready to go with that. We've talked about the errant golf balls up on hole 5. I've got a couple of slides on that. Rich and I did meet with one of the sons over there of the property. And he was very reasonable, I thought. We moved the temporary tees forward, and I'll look around at, I don't know if Jeff or Gerald here, but I think the intent now is to put the permanent tee in the location where we moved the temporary tee. And that, to my knowledge, has been helping a little bit with that. We're working on the trail user protection screen. That's kind of on my list right now. I'm trying to get some quotes on a fence or a screen over there. Got some information that another member provided here on netting, and we've still got some work to do on the bridge. So to give you an idea real quick, kind of hard to read with the coloration on there, but that shows your loop. That's the current site plan with, again, the same one that Gerald looked at in his. To give you an idea, of a oblique from one of the drone pictures here, and the bridge location is up there where it's got to cross the drainage ditch. We've got to get across there somewhere. And the trail user protection screen is kind of down at the bottom there. So the trail itself will be decomposed granite, like the nature trail is. It's a little over a mile, and with the different loops that you can create with that cross-section trail over there, you could do a figure 8, you could do some things, you could get a pretty good workout over there. 8 foot wide approximately. We'll have to probably be narrower in a couple of areas, about 4 inches thick on the decomposed granite. So this represents kind of what's been happening up here with golf balls, and the tee to the far right on the screen there, to the right of 4 green, that was the kind of the problematic area. That's about 90 to 100 yards out. So straight push shots, slices, and the owner said, if they're hitting the wood pile, I'm not too worried about it. But when they're going on the other side of his house, he actually found a golf ball on the west side of his house out in the pasture. And then especially that drive that goes into the building, they work there. So that's actually kind of a safety problem for them when they're on their property over there. So that's the main areas that we've tried to address. And we wound up moving. Well, there's an example of what we're thinking about right now for the trail user screen, maybe a cantilever structure with some nets on that. From a location standpoint, we'll keep the tees forward a little bit. It's a little cleaner view of it. You can still get somewhere between 50 and 70 yards on that. We'd bring that screen in a little bit closer to the tee as opposed to running the trail parallel to the property line. That way, low shots that come off the toe of the club or sculled or something like that would hit that screen and not go into the yard over there. It's not going to stop a slice necessarily up by the green from going over there, but that was the least of their concerns over in that area. So, and we could put in some trees too to help with the long-term issues up there. So that's what we're working on in that. And again, the trail should be starting here in a couple of weeks, probably. I would say weather permitting and everything, we should start seeing McCrary Property Services starting some work out there. I don't recall the exact time frame. Did you? Yeah. So any questions or comments on trail update?
There it is. The only question I had is, I know that there is on your first diagram, it says like future parking. And so I'm guessing there's a culvert there, would have to go over also.
The future development in that lower portion of that.
Who knows?
Yes, I mean, it depends on what you do there. There would be room for parking on up, on the other side of that ditch. So yes, there might eventually be a vehicle bridge go over that.
So I'm just wondering if, could you route it without having to do the more expensive bridge? Could you route the trail back that way
Well,
and cross over earlier rather than later?
There's various places up and down the ditch that we could do this, but again, the bridge that we're talking about is really a pedestrian bridge, and also be able to get a mower across wide enough for Scott's crew to be able to access that property by crossing there on that. So I'm not certain I'm following your question or answering it correctly.
Just wondering, I mean, right now you have it routed down toward the pond, and then you come over at the pond, you come over the culvert. So just wondering if before we go all the way down that way, we start earlier.
We could do the bridge earlier. In fact, when we were out there looking at it one day, that was kind of the thought process. We would like, one of the nice things about going a little further down that way is then it makes access to the pond for fishing purposes and stuff also a little bit. If we cross immediately on there, then we have a spur, I guess you could say, that would need to go down to the trail, because we'd want people to be able to park in that area and get down there too. So there's maybe a little compromise there.
There it is. James had made the point that that cantilever fence was going to reflect balls up and over into this guy's property, and we needed some.
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea with the cantilever is that if we're using wedges out there, so we're having lob shots a lot. So a trail user could walk fairly close to that screen and be protected by a ball coming down on them. That's the idea.
Okay.
Do we need to put another donation tree up there? Anything else, Jim?
Yeah, was there any slides?
Just your pickleball update.
Okay.
Constant content.
All right. Okay, so quickly on the pickleball project, Sports King is making progress. I think most everybody can see that out there. The weather has kind of hindered some of the working conditions a little bit out there. They've been having to pump out the grade beam trenches and stuff like that. They've kind of hopefully helped fix that a little bit. We're basically at this point um, waiting on their engineer to come out and inspect it and make certain that the contractor that's done the work has done it according to his plans. Um, we will also have Teradyne, is our geotechnical firm, come out and inspect the tendons and the rebar out there. But we want to do that after they get their chance to correct anything that the contractor's done first. So that's where we're at right now. That's the next step, is for those inspectors to take a look at that, because everything, as far as the only other thing is, before he actually pours concrete, he needs to set the net pole sleeves, but that's fairly simple to do. There are 3 phases of concrete pours. So they're going to do one pad. That's a big job in itself, one pad, and then do a second pad. And then they will do the slab for the shelter. And then there's flat work that needs to be done too. But so three phases. We'll test the concrete. Again, Teradyne will be out to test each one of those pours at the time that they're doing. So it's kind of on me right now to help coordinate a lot of that right now and make certain we get all of that together. Substantial completion. We've been moving back from June towards the end of June right now. And if you look at what they're saying too, is 30 to 45 days of concrete curing. They cannot just come out a week after they pour concrete and start surfacing that. There's a process that has to go on for that surface to be adhere properly on there. So if you can do the math, even if we poured tomorrow, 45 days puts us into the middle of June. So I would say that, right now we're really looking more at a summer, after in July, maybe a little bit longer. But we had a Parks and Recreation meeting this morning. I know, at least with the progress that's being made, everybody seems to be a little bit relieved that it's actually happening. So uh, we'll try to push them along as much as we can, but there's actually some steps that we've got to follow, and from a timing standpoint. We'll keep putting out weekly updates, and I think you've seen the pictures in there, and so I will try to find out. He's supposed to be out this week, but I don't have a specific date on it.
The POA's going to pull electric from the restroom back over there. When are we going to do that?
The POA is not doing that.
Oh.
Sports King will do that. We've talked about that. Their electrical person is going to do that, and we've got to coordinate a little bit. That's some of the things we've been doing too, with curing during curing times and some of those things. So, but yes, they will be doing that.
Any questions for Jim? All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the updates.
Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, Rich, department reports.
Thank you. First up is just admin, which is actually the Human Resources Committee. We actually started a fractional HR RFI, put out some information, try to get some response from the firms. The goal is to kind of help with overall risk management and HR, control some of the policies and procedures, help with job descriptions, hiring, all the just compliance investigations, everything else that may happen. So we sent that out. Due date was April 24th. We actually got 16 submittals back out of 24 that we reached out to. So we had a very good response. We'll be reviewing those, Gerald, Dan, myself, committee, until probably about mid-May, and then we'll reach out to maybe 5 or 6 narrow the search down to 5 or 6 and then do a formal RFP from there and proceed. Also, just for mentioned before, the road fund was instituted, so we updated the fee schedule, posted that so everybody could see the total fees. And then Jeremy's here, Assistant Community Manager, Lodge Manager. He's going to do the lodge update.
All right. So I just wanted to start off by saying in March we did really good. Well, I wouldn't say really good, but we made a profit, which is pretty solid. So $2,000 in the positive, which is really good. Getting really excited about getting the butcher block program going again. Today we haven't done it in about a month and a half, and today we sold over 70 steaks. So that's a good thing. We're going to be bringing some vegetables, some bread, some cheeses, just to make it a little bit more of a market value style. So that's coming soon. The wine locker program is still going well. We've sold over 4 this month, so we've only got about 6 left. So it's going really good. I plan on having like a mid-summer style, like wine tasting event open to the public, as well as the members that are already part of the program. They get to come for free. But yeah, that'll be kind of our last push to try to get the last 6 lockers sold. Culinary and equipment updates. We've got the new pizza oven. It's all calibrated perfectly. It's cooking really well. Really excited about just launching this new pizza program next week with our new menu, as well as having a dedicated dinner menu starting next week. And then the ongoing bar expansion. It sounds like projects take a while here. So next 2 to 3 weeks, I feel pretty confident about having 3 good proposals from 3 different companies just to see where we're going to sit on that.
Thank you. And next up is Public Works, Scott Manning.
Well, thanks, Rich, for letting me come out from the back. I wasn't prepared. I would have made a 1-pager instead of a 2-pager, but I'll blow through these pretty quick. First off, I want to start off by asking our members that Public Works has 2 full-time positions. One's a seasonal for a custodial side, and also a full-time grounds maintenance. So if you know anybody that's looking for some work, send them my way. Appreciate it. All right. First off, road repair for this year is completed. As you probably see, the Kiowa Drive West finally got new striping all the way from the main entrance to the low water crossing 1 and the exit. We finally got those. For next year, we've got a schedule plan, and of course that sometimes changes along the way. We look at basically all of our major roads, and then we look at our main roads, our secondary, and then our tertiaries, and try to go back and forth what needs to be done sooner than others. So also looking at several street signs. Went around and looked at a couple. Houston Drive is completely missing. Must have blew off from the winds, but we're getting an inventory on all the street signs, that ones that are just bad shape, and some that we may have missed that's missing. So if your street sign is not there, let me know. I'd be glad to help get that replaced. Moving on to part 3 and driving range areas. So my crew is basically set to mow. It takes pretty much all day to mow the part 3 and the driving range and the old driving range. So we have a monthly or weekly mowing schedule for that, and help the driving range guys when they get out there and get all the hit balls. It used to be every other week. Now it's every week. Drinking fountains finally got had some issues with a few of them, especially the one at the par three. We had it winterized, but there's some issues with that didn't survive during the freeze. So, but we finally got those working. Little Wolf, Jim had addressed a lot of the Little Wolf Park and walking trail. We're meeting tomorrow with some of the par three members to work on setting locations for the new hitting mats for the par three. So that's gonna happen pretty good. And then the shade structure as well. We're looking to get that replaced. The original shade structure received some stretching damage from the ice back in the wintertime. Lodge and patio. So we're set to get the new lodge security CCTV system installed. So I believe starting next week. Double doors, we're still working on. I think we got a bid to replace, and hopefully they'll match the new doors that we replaced last year. We're going to add more lighting for the patio for Mr. Brindle here. We got a couple brick and stone repairs happening. One here at the cart barn, and also when we had those really high winds, we had some stone damage on the northeast side of the pavilion, and it actually did a little bit of screen damage there. So we're in the works of getting that repaired as well. The bar received a new KDS system touchscreen for. We finally got that installed. It's basically a whole new system, touchscreen, allows the bartenders or the bar to receive drinks now. It's just kind of like our kitchen displays, and that nobody ever gets to see. Weekly maintenance, always on the west and east beach. We're trying to get out before each weekend to rake the beaches and just make sure it's tidied, maintained, mowed, and try to keep it as neat as possible. Back to the buoys. So
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just on the beaches, we definitely have gotten, and it seems like it comes up every once in a while. Sand, lack of sand. We put sand there, it gets washed away in storms. So I don't know what the strategy could be around some of that. And then, I know your guys go out there with rakes and try to, rake it up. And, I know there's been discussions about other technology, I guess, to make that better, but that probably works if there's actually sand to kind of rake through or sort through. So, what types of discussions have there been in your world around how we handle those situations? And is there a recommendation, best practice to help that, especially given that Memorial Day is not too far away?
You're talking about just raking the beaches or
there's having the beaches in a condition where people feel that they can put their kids out there. There's actually sand there. It's, so it's a combo of all of the above, I guess. Sand, keep the sand there, and how to keep it well groomed.
Well, the biggest discussion is primarily for the East Beach because it has over time we've brought new sand out there several times. Of course, the other issue over there is the amount of rocks. As everybody goes into the lake, it's very rocky over there. So we'd have to get an engineer to come out there and see how we can improve the overall look of the East Beach and the drainage as well, because on the south end of that is just hard packed dirt that we've filled that in over several times over the years. That sand just washes right out. So when I used to first started out here, I was actually one raking the beaches, and I was able to actually go around the pavilion that sits out in the sand, and now you can see how far the water levels gone up. So we lost quite a bit of sand space over there over time, just That's just due also the amount of years that the lake's been full since then. So, but we're looking at also improving beach sand area here at the West Beach, and we'll probably be bringing that to you maybe next board meeting. But plans on adding and updating the beach volleyball area as well.
That's great. I appreciate it. Now, I just got some feedback around that, and seems like that's an issue that's plagued us for a while. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to chime in a little bit, like we discussed a beach cleaner that came up. A couple of the other issues there, like you said, the rocks, but also the wave action that gets over there. And there's a drainage issue. The berm that's there, probably not sufficient. Water comes in through the middle, rushes through. So you're talking about building up a berm, or similar to here, have some kind of flume that takes the water around. Another thing would be breakers, wall breaks put out into the lake to kind of keep the wave action from taking the sand out. Anything you do would, like you said, would need a civil engineer drainage work, and would be a larger scale project than just like a weekly maintenance. You have to really get into an engineering part and figure out what you can do to stop the issues from happening.
Okay, moving on. The guys are going to be out on the lake tomorrow to start putting out the new buoys. We went around and did a pretty good extensive inventory with all the ones that need to replace and some relocation of some areas. So that'll start happening tomorrow, as well as repairing the swim area here on the west side, West Beach. We've got some potholes over there on number 16 green that we are now going to be repairing the erosion close by the south end there by the seawall. I got a new little technique that I actually tried out last year at the West Beach. It's using this spray foam, which is bentonite, which is lake friendly. But the nice thing is about it is, and if you have any potholes in your house and you get tired of backfilling and it just keeps washing out, bentonite spray foam, it's an impermeable area that waterproofs that area, and then it expands as it gets wet. So it's kind of a nice little trick I learned yet last year. So I'm applying to all of the Iroquois Park, the boat docks, our boat ramps that along that have erosion issues there. So we'll be getting around to doing all those. All right, moving projects. 14 or number 4 bathroom finally, the septic system finally got replaced. I won't get into details with that, but it's all functional. We have a drainage repair for low water crossing number 1. I don't know if anybody's seen the cones out there, but we have some erosion issues under the concrete that needs to be addressed pretty quick. So I've got the bids in. We'll be sending out a constant contact to let everybody know that one of the lanes is going to be closed. So we'll try to not create a traffic jam over there since it's the busiest section of Kiowa. Same thing with number 15 cart path. A little bit worse erosion issue there. It's the drainage that flows underneath the cart path that is completely eroded. So that's going to be another quick little repair that we're going to do pretty fast with the next week or so. Fire department requested to have more additional outdoor lighting for their smaller fire building structure. They have no lights on their driveway, so we're gonna take care of them as well. Little floating dock over there at 13. We're finally going to do some repairs and some enhancements for safety concerns. I don't know if anybody's used that boat dock to come off the lake and use the restroom out there, but we're finally going to get that resolved. So all the golf cart paths from basically crossing over the roads. Rich's idea that we're going to start basically striping the high gloss, high visible lines for all the golf cart crossings that go across our roads. Another safety enhancement. So you'll start seeing that later this year. Also have some riprap erosion repairs elsewhere, like number 4 cart path over the bridge. We got some, and then our number 8 tee box, and just south of that, number 8 green there, it's going to get a new seawall repair, and along the tree back there, we're going to have some riprap repair as well. That's all I have for you.
Scott, just for the number 8 green area, that's for the sand trap and the degradation that's gone on there from erosion, that we don't lose that sand trap, but we are going to lose the use of that hole for some period of time. Is that correct?
Yeah. I spoke with the contractor, so we're looking at about just a little less than a week and a half to get that repaired. So we will send out a constant contact to let everyone know that hole number 8 will be closed for that time being. But I'm pretty confident that it should not be more than a week.
Thanks, Scott.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Rich, anything else?
I just wanted to add, we did get a report back from BBA regarding the dam, the piezometers to be precise. There was some anomaly information that they received from the piezometers, some high level water, surface water. So they're going to give a proposal just to do a site investigation and probably might have to do some mediation, but hopefully I'll get that probably for the next board meeting, try to move forward with that. And they'll need to do that before we do any other work on the spillway. Excuse me. Lake Kiowa security. Yeah, you have the report in front of you. One thing we always talk about, column passes are down to 215. You can see all the citation speedings down to 17. There's no hours listed on the lake for March. You started in April, so there's no hours listed for the lake patrol. Any other comments for security?
I just continue to like this format. It seems to
Yeah.
be very member friendly.
Yeah.
And I really like breaking it down between members, vendors. That really helps. I mean,
Yeah, and for everybody, what I'm talking about is what Melanie puts out in the communique now in constant contact. So it's just the highlight form of all the ambulance escorts that we talk about. There are 11 escorts for medical emergencies. Talk about citations, warnings, 24 citations to 14 warnings. Animal calls, there's 42 on here, which is extremely high. Everybody's talking about the stray dogs. We are working on all the stray dogs. We found homes for a lot of them, caught a lot of the stray dogs. People ask how many are out there now. I don't know that number, but we are reducing the number. And if everybody doesn't know, somebody from the outside had a kennel that they basically left and let all the dogs out. So that's why there was a rash of stray dogs for a while. They had their dogs and they just let them free and they skipped town. So we're catching up with it, and it'll probably take a little bit of time. And of course, they all had puppies, which makes it worse.
Hey, Rich, just for an understanding on the 3.8 and 3.14 logs, there's a personal name listed. Is that allowable?
It's for yours and safety and security only. That's why I don't bring it up.
So even for me,
that's for the full security report. Sorry, Cecil.
Rich, I think she's just using like ChatGPT or something, but unless I'm wrong, the math's not math, and it says 24, and like there's like 35 here. You may just mention that to her. I don't think it's adding it up correctly, just so the members don't get confused.
Yeah, it's from Canva, and I think how she replaces them. If you notice too, it's the same number, but for like call-in passes, she has it in 2 locations, 215. Okay. Okay, correct. Okay, thank you. Last up is golf. A lot of these were already touched on, but I just wanted to make a mention of some of the other items as he's replacing the sod. Yeah, well, not all the sod, but patching the greens for sod is necessary. That should be happening soon. He's ordered the sod for that. We mentioned the seawalls. Again, we'll inform the membership. We talked to Brian Lauren, said there's no tournaments or anything. There shouldn't be any issues. And I think that's about it. I mean, you have everything else in the golf as typical updates. Please replace your divots. Again, the Bermuda grass kind of only grows in that 150-degree area from high to low temperatures. So again, waiting for some of the grass to grow just from the spring and getting the temperatures up. That's all I have.
Thank you, Rich. Additional business on here. I'm not aware of any additional business to come before us. I will tell you that Dan had mentioned before that he would send out to the board a priority plan, and he will be sending that out in the next week or so. So,
yeah, really more of a tool to say, get your feedback on what, from a project point of view and initiative point of view, you want to focus on. So it's kind of just an Excel spreadsheet to provide your feedback, and we can capture it, pull it together to review at a future date.
And then next item on here is comments from the members. There are several that have signed up, and so I just want to see if they still want to speak. First one on here is Jeff. Did you want to speak?
Beautiful glasses on here. Yes, Jeff Hecker, lot 1646. I am a current member of the ad hoc Lake and Boat Committee, and I, for one, do have big concerns of that committee. Multiple reasons why. I'm just going to give you a few of them. The first one is some of the comments from our committee chair earlier saying that we do have agreements on items. I can tell you that is a pretty big stretch. There's maybe some verbal agreements on a few items, but the majority of the items we have no agreements whatsoever and need a lot more work. Our chair also said that if we have a vote this next meeting, actually the chair has already called for a vote on a number of items without correct procedures. Many of which of these items that have been called to vote, we have not discussed at all and have never seen some of these items at all. That's a very, very big concern. We really never have followed any proper procedures, any parliamentary procedures at all. We did not receive an agenda before the last meeting. As you know, if you don't receive an agenda, you do not have a method to prepare for any of the items that are on that agenda. So how are we to prepare for anything? The one item that did get put through on a motion and a second was then altered by the chair when a document was sent out earlier this week to vote on. You just can't do that. That motion and second needs to be recognized. Now it was recognized, and then they pushed it to the next meeting. However, the document we got, all of that information was rewritten completely from what the motion and the second was. That just shows that I'm not sure what it shows. I'm just going to put it right there. And again, there's been a lot of items that have been asked to vote that have never been discussed before. That as well is just a big no. Now, I'm all for proper discussion and debate. I'm okay with that. Both sides, there's clearly sides in this committee, but this is in no way going down a proper method or proper manner. No parliamentary procedures at all. It's being somewhat altered and dictated to the rest of this committee on what we're going to vote on and when we're going to vote for it. And in my opinion, I think this committee is too far gone because of some of the actions that have happened. If there is indeed a need for an ad hoc committee, a suggestion that I would have to span the one that you currently have, put a new one in place with someone as a chair that understands how to run a meeting and let it go down that path. Or what should happen is really, you've already had multiple meetings with the community. You have that information. You have a lake management committee, and you also have a rules committee. We elect you as our officials to utilize that information and make the vote by yourself or using that information. So that's my opinion on what should happen going forward. But right now, this ad hoc committee is somewhat of a mess.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Next person on the sign up was Jim Adams.
I'm going to maybe comment on the rules, but you guys did great tonight on all that. So it's Jim Adams, lot 666. Huh? Yeah, you got attaboy. No, but I did want to ask, so I'm just asking a question because it's come up in prior meetings and I'm just asking on the behalf of the golf community, is sand traps. Seems like that was a discussion. We've heard about it in the golf committee, but I didn't hear it come up tonight. And I know that there's pricing going around. So if we can kind of get that moving again, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Mike Brindle, you signed up.
Mike, I get it. All right. Mike Brindle, lot 1698. Just to touch briefly on something Cecil brought up earlier about the SUD and its legal responsibility to put back into the lake 7% more of the water it takes out. They have a lot of flexibility as to when. I would just like to see maybe they can work with, if the lake is absolutely full, don't put water back in then. It just goes over the dam and nobody benefits except the folks downstream. So if we have any flexibility or can convince them to have any flexibility to release water when lake's not full, we'd appreciate it. All right. And then lastly, more of a public service announcement. Wednesday in the Southwest Room is the next folk-sponsored blood drive. Noon till 6 p.m. They always need blood. Please come out and donate. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Photo ID.
Thanks, Mike. Larry, you're also on the list. Did you have something to say? Nope. Okay. All right. Any other member comments?
Hello, I'm Tricia Stirk, lot 1617. I just wanted to express my support and appreciation for the Ad Hoc Voters Committee. I'm not on the committee. I think it's unfortunate some of the discussion that has happened tonight, as I believe this committee was brought together to, help come up with some common ground. And I trust that they can do that. It's unfortunate that someone's feelings are hurt over it, and I hope that we can move on. So I appreciate the board for continuing to support that committee. And I do just have one question to make sure I understand what I heard earlier in terms of process. So coming out of this ad hoc committee, the recommendations will then go to the rules committee, who will refine them, come up with what their ultimate recommendation is. And then that will come back to the board. Is that the process?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what we said, so that they can perfect them, but they can also look at them and make sure that they follow what we have currently in our rules.
Excellent. I appreciate that understanding. And again, we had a lot of discussion at many board meetings about this, and there was many different opinions. So it's reasonable to understand that there are differing opinions, and I think we just need to trust the process.
Thank you.
Pete Mason, lot 710. This is in regards to the sexual harassment. What was it? 3.3.1.2a. Are you going to you sent that back to the committee to review and adjust. Are you going to give them any direction as to what you want adjusted or changed? I didn't hear anything from any comments from anybody tonight. So what are they supposed to change or do?
I heard two things, and so maybe that's what I heard, and maybe it was right or wrong. So, one is that it would go back to the Rules Committee, and so we can compare it to what's out there under the interfering with an employee that talks about harassing, because that was a question that came up from the board. So we would go back and look at that and see if it is covered there. And then also we had additional information that we gained from James today in regards to some things that need to come off and looks like some additional clarification on what it means. So that's what I heard and that's what I wrote down for direction to back.
I would add, is that, there was obviously a lot of feedback from the board members today, and that we probably need to understand that better, and then, ask George and team to understand it. There was discussion about, where does this apply? If someone overhears something, or they have any, does that fall into the category of someone says something inappropriate? And I would add that. And I also think, even though it's referenced in the early part of the document, to say this is only for activities, actions that are on common property or community property, to reinforce that no one's trying to, regulate what happens in the privacy of someone's own home.
Okay.
So I would add to that. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that or would change that.
I guess my question then would be, did somebody take notes, and is somebody going to give that information to George?
I think Dan has it. I also have it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for holding our feet to the fire, I guess is what I want to say. Right. Any other comments from the members? Yes, sir.
James Langholm, lot 73. I think one of the frustrations with this whole sexual harassment policy and rule that's coming out was, I realize it's been communicated, but the only way that a lot of people knew about it was somebody put it on Facebook. The email that came out was on April 2nd, and it was about an Easter egg hunt. And then there was one sentence down in the very bottom that covered that said, see the rule revisions here. To me, that's that you're burying the lead at that point. And once you go through this process and you have rules, it seems like it's important enough to send a specific email that's related to that exact rule and not put it behind an Easter egg hunt. So I think that was and we're trying to have transparency, and it looks like the board hit it, which I know they didn't try to do that, but that's the way it came across to a lot of people. So I think if we can do that better in the future, and again, I think when you're making rule changes and you're applying them to the entire community, especially one of this magnitude with the severity of penalties, it needs to be fairly direct. So that'd be my comment.
Thank you, James. Point well taken. Thank you. Any other comments from the members? Then we shall take a break at 8:30, and then afterwards we'll have a motion to go into executive session. Thank you all very much for coming and your feedback.